What's up, Lucky Gamers? It's Lucky Lux, and I know it's been a while. I apologize. Just been handling some personal stuff. The newborn, trying to improve the setup, different things like that. But today we're gonna be talking about Eversoul, talking about Honglan, the new character coming soon, and if you should go for that character. I know that we just had Valana. A couple of people went for her. I know I did. We're gonna talk about Valana in PvP, PvE, bosses, any place that you would think of. We're gonna talk about that today. All right, so Honglan is going to be a beast caster, right? So with her being a beast caster, we know that she's going to be in the backline. Currently, beasts only have one backline character, which is Flynn, right? So now we're able to add another one to the backline. Now we also know that Flynn doesn't like a lot of people being in the back, basically none. So her Flynn and Honglan most likely won't go together, depending on the position that Honglan will have, right? So just do think about that with the beast. We do know that the rest of the beast characters, they are mostly frontline, not all of them, right? So with using Honglan, you can mix her into other teams. Hopefully that way they can boost her. I know that beast and undead go well together. Beast and human go well together. So there's some things to think about. So when we look at her ultimate ability, Ice Dragon's Howling Fury freezes the whole battlefield, deals damage equal to 170% attack to all enemies, and decreases mana by 2,000. Freezes the enemy team, dealing 60% damage every 2 seconds for 8 seconds, and stuns it for 2 seconds. Fable gets the character to 101, damage changes to 185%, freezing damage changes to 65%, and at level 201, damage changes to 200%, freezing damage changes to 70%, mana decrease changes to 2,500. So automatically with me looking at this, when I see the mana change, I'm thinking PvP, right? Uh, but this is an ultimate ability. So obviously you can't use ultimates in PvP, but that's what it's initially making me think about, the fact that she can do mana changes, right? In PvE setups, the fact that she can do an AoE attack is great. We know that we love in our story missions someone with AoE whenever we're doing Dimensional Labyrinth or anything. We are loving AoE characters, right? So for PvP, if her kit is depending on her ultimate, we know that we can't really use her as much, but we'll continue to talk about the kit to see where she fares in PvP, right? But with the mana changes, that can kind of save your team, because now you're preventing your team from getting hit by certain skills. Enemy team, especially when you're higher up, getting smacked by different characters definitely hurts. So this could reduce the amount of damage that your team takes overall. Also, it has a stun, which is really nice, right? And we know that it has damage over time, which means you can pair that with Rebecca over an undead to help out the freeze dot, right? On the main ability, Glacial Shower throws a heavy rain of ice, inflicting damage equal to 110% attack to all enemies, decreasing their mana by 1,500 and freezing them, dealing 55% damage every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. So very similar to the ult. Now this is something you can use in PvP. Again, with the mana reduction, this does help in PvP, helps in PvE, right? But again, PvP, it's preventing the team from using abilities as much, right? And it's putting a dot over them, which pairing that with Rebecca helps the dot. If you get her to level 81, damage changes to 120, freezing changes to 60. Level 181, damage goes to 130, dot goes to 65, mana decrease goes to 2,000. So the AoE, it doesn't seem like it has too crazy of a scaling on the main ability. Seems like it's really going to be depending on the dots. The only problem with dot teams is that if there's any sort of healing, dot's got to go away. So you'd have to pair her with Rebecca to reduce the amount of healing they have, because there are some really strong hot healers, hot meaning healing over time. There's some really strong ones, so that dot needs to hit hard. So you're probably gonna have to pair her with Rebecca. Not have to, but it would be wise to pair her with Rebecca. On the sub ability, Ice Dragon sends out an Ice Dragon, dealing damage equal to 100% attack and a 1.5-meter wide straight line to the nearest enemy, and inflicts freeze damage equal to 50% every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. 1.5-meter straight line kind of sounds like Mephi, right? And then it's going to inflict freeze on that. So again, another dot. So we have 3 abilities that have a dot on them: the ultimate, the main skill, and the sub. So That's Screaming Becca again. I've said it 4 or 5 times probably, but I'll keep saying it. At level 21, damage changes to 110%. Freezing damage changes to 55%. Level 121, damage changes to 120%. Freezing damage changes to 60%. And freeze duration changes to 12 seconds. So you get 2 extra seconds on the freeze, which I'm guessing would give you another extra damage of freeze as well. So you get a little bit more damage. This is just a single target ability. Nothing too crazy about it, but just adds another dot um, outside of her main skill, which does help if you're doing like a dot Honglan situation. Freezing Strike creates an ice pillar, deals damage equal to 110% attack in a 2.5-meter area around the nearest enemy. If the targets are frozen, they are stunned for 2.5 seconds. So this sub is really wanting to obviously pair up with the rest of her kit, and she can stun. So it's really nice that she's able to freeze to put a dot, and then she stuns on her ult, and she stuns on her sub. So you get a little CC out of her on her sub ability. Level 41 damage changes to 120. Level 141 damage changes to 130. Stun duration changes to 135, right? So most people are around the 140, 160. Some people are up to 180. I'm talking more common, like free to play, kind of casual players. So you'll be able to see that stun of the 3.5. And then you'll be able to see her passive leveled up. So her passive, Blue Dragon's Dignity, a freezing chill permeates through all enemies while Honglan is on the battlefield, reducing all enemy speed by 10% and evasion by 15. So reducing the enemy speed reduces the amount of attack speed that they have. And the evasion helps out with being able to hit your attacks. So especially if you're going against enemies that like to evade, mostly Dex enemies, Lindsay's, if you guys are still in the early parts of the game where Lindsay's are a problem, you'll have a little bit easier chance of hitting her. And then the speed changes go from 12% and 18, and then 161 it goes to 14% to 21. All right, so the passive, I wish it would have done something with the dots, maybe added some extra damage or something like that. Like this here is a hella supportive. All right, and so before we conclude everything about her, let's go over her artifact to see what's going on with it. Ice Dragon adds an additional 80% attack damage to frozen enemies and restores Honglan's mana by 200. And the mana recovery goes up to 500 at upgrade 3, where it adds an additional damage to 120%. So it hits quite hard, probably. Upgrade 4, enemies hit by Ice Dragon will lose 200 mana. And then the mana reduction, if you're able to max it out, goes to 500. So at upgrade 6, you will gain 500 mana whenever you hit enemies with this, and then the enemies will lose 500 mana. All right, so with looking at her kit, she seems like her whole shtick is like a debuffer. It doesn't seem like she's gonna be like super bursty. Just looking at her kit and how high her scalings go, right? It seems like the dot damage is supposed to make up for her kit, which, like I said, like with dot damage, it's just sometimes mediocre, just like as people like kind of dog my favorite faction being undead. It's just dot damage doesn't really have a place in the game unless you're fighting a single target enemy, because there's just so much healing that happens to where it just makes the dots kind of just like meh. Like unless they're really low or you have a way of amplifying them, they just don't really do as much when the enemy team could just heal right through it, right? Or they don't have something like where it's ignoring protections or anything like that, like Arusha has, right? So this kit seems like heavy into debuff, decreasing mana, and with decreasing mana, like Renee has that, and I can't remember who else, to where it's like an AoE mana reduction might help save you in certain situations. I actually pulled up some other characters that either just have straight burst damage or stun, and just looking at the scalings and just kind of looking at the kit, right? So just remember here, we're looking, I'll do max level 101 because I know not most players are gonna have a 200 level Honglan, right? And then here, I kind of want I level 181. I know there's a few players who are here, so we can kind of use this as a reference, right? But so we're gonna look at 185 and 130 here for the initial burst damage of the kit. The dot damage I'll take in consideration, 65%, right? So let's look at Naya. Naya's a favorite for everybody, fairy caster. Right at the gate, she sits at 260. And sleeps innings for 4, which is similar to a stun. It's not exactly a stun, but it's similar, right? And if you were to get her to a similar level, it's 285, which is 100% more, I believe. Yeah, a whole 100% more damage. Her skill, we already know, it's better. It not like in damage wise. Now it doesn't hit the whole team like Honglan, right? It has a chance to, depending on position, but this is typically hitting the back line and it's sleeping them. We already know how crazy Naya is, right? So just the skill alone, you already know she can hit the back line without asking for it. Harder, right? Honglan can hit the whole team. She's not hitting the back line that hard, right? So Vallana just came out. Her ult right up the gate, 240%. Does a 55% bleed that cannot be cured. P-Mantle can't dispel it. At level 101, it does 260. Additional damage changes to 160. Yeah, if they're already bleeding. And then the bleed damage changes to 60%. So Vallana hits really hard as well on her ult. Over 200%. Her main ability. Now this one is not an AoE. This one is a 180-degree cone. It deals 200% of attack and deals 120 if the targets are bleeding. From where we're looking, if it's at level 181, 220, additional damage is 140. And then as an effect, which it stuns the target for 2 seconds if the target's bleeding. So we already know that Vallana has conditions that have to be made for her to get her max damage. But like, if you were to give that to her, if you were to give the bleed for Vallana, she's nutty. We already know that, right? Talia, just looking at the ult, Talia's ult hits for 250, and it heals, gives mana restoration because a lot of people build their teams with having Talia ult, right? And that's the only reason why I'm bringing this up. At 101, damage changes to 280, hits really hard. Also, yeah, her artifact, her artifact allows that to hit even harder. So a lot of people are nuking with Talia on their team. So it's like, are you using Honglan or Talia, right? Mika, for people who have beast teams already, Mika like hits for 260 already. When Seahawks on the battlefield, it does an additional 130 and stuns the enemy team. So it's a 390% attack. That's AoE and stuns for 3 seconds. At 101, it's 280 and additional damage is 140. So it's a 420% nuke that you have. And then her main ability just does extra stuff as well. But just her ult, if you're building a beast team and you have Mika and Siha, or you're looking at using Clara, or you're looking like to have some versatility versus using Mika and Siha, right? You're gonna be using like Clara and Honglan. One, you have a character like Honglan who doesn't have to rely on the healer to do her additional damage, but it's like, bruh, Mika hits like a truck. And if you don't know that by now, just know Mika hits like a truck, bro. Vivian, people's like old love. People still love to use her. We know she hits like a truck. And then lastly, I almost forgot about her. Jade. Jade is at 270. With hers, and it stuns, goes up to 295. So Again, I brought that up to say that her ult does not hit as hard as everybody else. Um, Now, if you were to let it stack and you get the dots and they don't heal it, sure, but that's, yeah, that's getting this damage. Um, you're having to have 8 seconds for all of this to hit, which the enemy team is stunned for 2 seconds, so you'll get the extra 60% at least, which puts us at 230, which is okay. And if you can get the second tick, it's 290. Third tick, it's at 350, and it goes to 410. If you can get all these ticks and the enemy team hasn't healed, it does a lot. But again, with dot damage, it can be healed. Now, the only way that the only thing that makes this our saving grace is that if you do the right pairing, right? This is how you can turn Honglan into a crazy character, possibly, if you pair her with the right team members, right? Which is like everybody. But if you pair her with somebody like Rebecca, I've been talking about her the whole time. Becca, 161, most of us have our characters at that level. That's a 50% change to dot damage, which helps out Honglan. Her whole kit is dot damage, right? Just thinking about that. If you're going to use a healer, there's Prim. Prim does a 20%, I mean a 25%, because you're going to have a 141 pretty much at this point if you've been playing. If you're starting out, it's 20%, but at this point, a 25% buff to your damage if they're close around. So you can use Prem with a beast team because um, before it was Flynn, right? Where Flynn didn't want anybody around her, even a Prem, even a healer, right? So you had to have healers in the front line. Now you're gonna have a healer in the back line, and you're getting a 25% extra attack. Which of course your team's not getting crit as much, which helps because with Honglan, your team's not taking quite as much damage because they're attacking slower. There's less mana. Um, yeah, so that does help. And Prim's artifact helps with your team's speed, defense, and crit rate. So Honglan, Prim, Becca, they're kind of, you know, all there in the back line. You already have Becca lowering their health, right? So if we're thinking of a team, Becca, Honglan, Prim, what does that leave you? So you can go warrior and tank, right? Because typically you want two on the front line by now. If you're going tank, it's whoever you want to go with. After that, um you can rock whatever tank after that. Typically, I rock Petra because Petra is going to go well with Becca because the furthest away is going to have the extra attack. We know that Petra does better with more attack as well. And then if we're going to have a warrior, right, we're rocking Beast. It can be any one of these characters. You can have a striker. I say warrior, but you could also do a striker. But Ira, Haru, you could have someone in the back line. Since you already have a Becca, you could have Jacqueline back there. You could have Valana. Doesn't doesn't matter. Right. But with the with the extra stuns that you do for the team, that could save your team because Petra does well if the team is attacking slower. If they're not able to get their skills, because Petra is going to stay alive a lot better. Jacqueline kind of typically will either survive in the back line of the enemy team or she will die. Um, you know, Villana, same thing. Either she'll pop off or she'll get nuked. Um, Haru, Ira, pretty much any warrior. That's the same thing. Either they pop off or they die. But again, that's kind of a team that's focused on having a back line and a small front line to help protect them. But with Honglan able to stun everybody and prevent them doing a lot of damage, that's how you can kind of run a team for her. And again, I know this took a little while, but I really wanted to kind of talk about Honglan in detail because people have been asking, they've been asking my chat, and they're just curious about Honglan. So I just wanted to kind of really go over a kit and just kind of think about and just show you like just how her kit kind of works, who you can use her around, and just different setups and different thoughts that you can have. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a comment and let me know what you guys think about Honglan. Maybe I was missing something. Maybe there's something you want to point out. And if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you guys want more content. Planning to do more videos. Also streaming on YouTube for Eversoul. Not doing it on Twitch, doing more console games over on Twitch. If you've noticed, I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy, so if you enjoy that content, check me out over on Twitch. But you're going to be seeing Eversoul over here on YouTube. Make sure you have the bell. That way you know when I go live or upload a video. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You lucky gamers, have a good one. Lucky Lux out.